If you're a pediatric therapist or a special ed teacher, you've probably used your fair share of therapy goal banks or at least an IEP goal bank in the past, especially if you're writing a lot of IEPs or if you are writing a lot of therapy plans. And I used to use these a lot as well. And since I mentor a lot of clinicians, I get a lot of requests for goal banks, especially for things like language and literacy. And I get it. I know that when you're trying to write an IEP or a therapy plan, it's easy to have some kind of a drop down box that gives you the language that you can use to quickly write a goal. But here's why I have really kind of gotten away from providing those types of resources for the clinicians that I mentor, especially the ones who work in the school systems. Now, I will say that for some academic skills, it is useful to take a look at some goal banks out there, but ultimately, I recommend that a lot of the people who are doing interventions for kids K-12 get away from being too dependent on goal banks, especially after they've been in the system for a while and working on different techniques with students for a while. And here's why. When we're using goal banks, it's really easy to use that as a crutch and kind of take the problem solving process out of writing goals. Now, yes, we do want to have kind of our go-to language for all the different things that we're working on with kids. And if we are working on specific academic goals, especially for special ed teachers, it is relevant to have some specific standards that we're writing to. But over time, what people end up doing is kind of creating their own goal bank. And really, instead of relying on these drop-down boxes in a lot of the standard goal banks out there, really that's what I more encourage people to do, is really developed, rather than having a goal bank per se, more of a process map and a problem-solving process for all of the different areas that they're working on. So for example, if it's a special ed teacher, they might have their math skills and their reading skills that they work on. If they are a speech pathologist or a social worker or some other kind of therapist who is working with kids in the schools, they might have their specific behaviors that they're addressing for the different types of things that they treat. And really what ends up happening is that they kind of create a bank of language for all these different skills, and then they can just kind of customize it case by case. So we're not starting from scratch, but we are kind of taking the crutch out of the process instead of being so reliant on these drop-down menus. And that's why I really, when I am mentoring clinicians, especially in the area of language and literacy, for example, I've kind of gotten away from providing the drop-down goal banks, because really the people who are working with me, by the time they're coming to me, they've been working in the schools or with school age kids for a while, and they've seen a few goal banks. They kind of get it. We really need to start moving away from that and really start pulling from that to create their own goal bank and their process for writing goals that allows them to make things more customized and functional for their unique caseload.